Sony has purchased Bungie, and joining me today to discuss this acquisition and reference the recent Activision acquisition by Xbox is Paul Tassi. Paul, wow, what a big story, huh?
Yeah, I heard about it. I literally screamed "what" like as loud as I possibly could at my computer when I heard it. Because Jason Schreier was like teasing it, and then he commented on my post directly. He's like, "You're gonna lose it" or something like that. And then I saw it like a minute later, and cannot say I predicted this one.
The deal was done for $3.6 billion. Paul, what do you think of this clapback?
Clapback, yeah. So I cannot classify this as a clapback. I mean certainly not against the Activision deal because this has been in the works for
Five
many months
months?
now, at least 5 months. So I mean maybe sort of in response to the Bethesda deal, and like they can kind of read the tea leaves of what's going on here in that all of the major players are just kind of buying up talent. I mean, Microsoft's been buying up studios for years at this point. So it's not a huge surprise that Sony's out there trying to, get their own piece of the pie. And I assume the tech giants are all going to be next to kind of swoop in and start buying the truly big ones like EA and Ubisoft and stuff. So
I personally hope that doesn't happen.
I hope it doesn't happen
Yeah.
also. And yet, this is where the winds are blowing, I would say. So this really caught me off guard, not necessarily just because of Sony purchasing Bungie, but Sony purchasing Bungie without an exclusivity pact, which you don't see that in any of these deals. I mean, we have it's crazy. Like Microsoft has okay, we're gonna keep doing Call of Duty multi-platform for a while, but like that seems like contractually mandated almost. Like I don't think they would be doing that if they didn't have to, but this, like the core of the deal is them remaining kind of independent in a sense. So
how many posts were you tagged and it's like, can't wait to see Paul and Destin's reaction. Nothing changed. Like nothing's exclusive. Sony and Bungie said we're still independent. They're like a side studio. But what's actually going to happen is Bungie is going to help Sony make more games like Destiny. But Bungie games are still going to be cross-platform. So that seems like my interpretation of it based on Jim Ryan literally saying that. So yeah.
I mean, that's even crazy too. Whereas like, I can understand why it makes sense. Like, okay, Destiny 2 isn't gonna, we're not just suddenly gonna rip that away off Xbox after 7 years or whatever. But like, I am surprised that they also came out and said already that their future IPs are not going to be PlayStation exclusive because those don't have a built-in player base. So that to me signals a kind of greater shift that we haven't really seen before. It's Sony kind of being broader thinking than really we've ever, seen them be before. Because I think one thing that's occurred to me is I think all these PS5 supply shortages have kind of freaked them out and like made them realize how tied they are to like this one box when like they have so many people that want to play their games and like play, the newest versions of stuff. And like they're so limited by that box that I think they want to expand into publishing, even if that's publishing on rival consoles, which is something even Microsoft isn't really doing per se.
Well, for so long,
a little bit with Minecraft and stuff, but
just a quick note on that. For so long, everybody, even I thought Sony had a commanding lead in console sales, and it turns out it's about 5 million units difference.
I said it was 5 million like a couple of weeks ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's about a 5 million.
As you think,
yeah, it's about a 5 million unit difference. And what's happening is, I'm sure it would be much larger if the supply chain wasn't all gobbled or messed up, gunked up because of just parts. Right? There's not enough semiconductors, so we have a much closer console race, which doesn't really matter anymore. Like, it's about where people can play your games. Sony's releasing on PC. Their PC games are really starting to hit their mark. Like God of War reviewed really well. It's a really good port. It seems like they learned their lesson. I believe there were some issues with 7 Remake that hopefully have been patched by now. But ever since then, like, God of War is the main one, right? Has there been a second? I think there was another.
Not since God of War. God of War was pretty recent, but all of their ports, generally speaking, I think have done relatively well. At least like the major ones, I think have been pretty well received.
Yeah,
I guess it's just a matter of, are they going to keep up this system where things are being ported like 2 or 3 years later, as opposed to like the Microsoft way of not only instantly doing it, but also having it be cross-purchase too, which I
Yeah.
don't know if they're going to go that far,
I
but
don't
I would
think they'll
not be
do
surprised
cross
to see that
purchase.
window go shorter and shorter in
Yeah.
terms of at least letting people buy PlayStation stuff on PC
I don't
or
think
the cloud.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be cross purchase. I think you're right. I think they're going
I
to
don't think
double
so
dip
either.
on the charges, which is a bummer unless Spartacus ends up sort of addressing that issue and they are just not ready to launch it yet. They did say
That's
they
so that's something with the Bungie deal where okay, so they're not they said explicitly they're not doing exclusives, they're not doing exclusive Sony content. That's
Mhm.
what I've gotten out of them, but like they could just be like, okay, well, we're putting the expansion or the season or whatever on PlayStation Spartacus at tier 3. So
Mhm.
even if they're not doing exclusive content and stuff like that anymore, that could still be a really big bonus for PlayStation players. Like Lord knows I would, love that, and that
Yeah.
would give them a boost for Bungie games
And
as a native perk there.
Destiny was taken off of Game Pass recently and we were all kind of like that's weird.
Yeah.
Maybe this had something to do with that.
I absolutely believe this had was somewhat related to that. I mean, I don't know when exactly that decision was made, but I do imagine that was kind of related to this for sure.
I think for me, I gave Sony a really, really hard time last year. They kept doubling down on things that I'm just like, that's not like the way the industry's going,
Yeah.
locking your exclusive to a box. And then a few months ago, Jim Ryan said something. He's like, we're tired of selling to so few users. We're limiting how many people can experience these amazing games that we make. And he's right. So I feel like this Bungie announcement comes out and it feels like a new Sony. Honestly, I couldn't believe that Jim Ryan's like, no console exclusivity. We're going to let them come out on Xbox. This is about us making, open world IPs and expanding our horizons basically. And it was just like, is this the same Jim Ryan
It's
from,
crazy. I mean,
yeah.
I think they kind of finally just woke up and they're
Yep.
like, okay, we do two things in particular really well. We make really powerful, good consoles that people want to buy that will sell out instantly. We also make really great action single player games
Mm-hmm.
that will win awards and things, and they will sell a lot of copies.
Yeah.
But they do not have a wide distribution net that Microsoft is like rapidly gaining speed on. Like they're way ahead of Sony so far, and they have the ability to kind of make a wider collection of different types of games like Halo, multiplayer, and like they're not just doing one thing really well. They're doing kind of a bunch of things, and the studios they're investing in are doing kind of multiple types of games, and some stuff's on Game, everything's on Game Pass and things like that. Where Sony's realized they kind of have to break out of their box, even if they're very successful within that box. It's still a box, and like you are limited by the total size of that. And this is, I think, just one in a number of future steps they'll make in that direction to kind of, I guess, get out of their comfort zone a little bit, and Bungie is supposed to help with that.
And that makes me tremendously happy. Honestly, it's like they snapped out of it and they saw the light. And I think we're going to hear more from Sony in the coming months, probably more acquisitions of smaller companies, maybe not of this size, could be bigger. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's really, really great. I really, really love that they are coming to play ball, that Microsoft has a great value proposition. Sony seems like they're going to be continuing to work to offer better services for their users. And it's just going to be a great 2022 for gamers at the end of the day. There have been a few comments, like, let's talk about the Michael Pachter clip. Basically, Michael Pachter said that Sony overpaid and this was them like panic buying. Was that the terminology that he
It
used?
was, yes.
Yeah, which
It was a desperation or something like
yeah,
that.
he
Like,
used the word desperation. I don't agree with Michael Pachter in the slightest. A deal that takes this long to do, maybe they paid too much. Like maybe that price point is a bit high, but like you and I know what Bungie has. They have the Destiny franchise, which they're looking to expand to movies, which they're looking to expand to television. And if those are great stories that are told, then you're talking about a whole different medium of experiences that fans and new fans alike can get in on, and that will have a circular effect to their revenue and the fact that it's multi-platform, like I see the value there. I don't think that 3.6 billion is overpaying. However, how do you feel when you compare that to something like Bethesda Softworks, which is a similar well, it was twice the price basically, right? 7.2 billion,
Seven
I
and a half
believe,
or something.
something
Yeah,
like
something
that.
like that.
And you got multiple franchises, which Microsoft could do the same thing with. What are your thoughts on Pactor and just some of the things going on there?
I see how you can make the argument about the price being high. I just wouldn't classify that as like Sony desperately bids, for some far-flung relevance or
Yeah.
something because they're feeling threatened by Microsoft. Like I think this is a correct call that makes sense. And
Mhm.
I think what has happened is the market for acquisitions has heated up since Microsoft, the original bomb they dropped was the Bethesda purchase. That was like the biggest purchase by far then. And then the Activision deal happened, and then that raises prices even more for everybody. So Sony's in a position where like Sony's not going to buy EA or probably Take-Two or whoever, but like there are a number of kind of at Bungie level developers where they were maybe shopping through it, who would fit with us, who wouldn't, what would be the terms of this and that and whatever, and they kind of landed on Bungie, and Bungie felt the same way. And I think it makes sense, and like I can understand why you would hear 3.6 billion, and I think he says it's like $4 million an employee or something, which is admittedly a very large amount. And it sounds crazy because they have one game, they have Destiny 2, and yet I think if you stop and think about it for more than 2 seconds, and like all the stuff we've just talked about, seeing what Sony is trying to do, seeing how Bungie could train multiple studios and not just be used as a developer, but like essentially as a training tool for many of their other kind of in-house developers for their own games.
Mhm.
And also they have multiple new IPs on deck too that we have not seen anything from, but they are presumably live service revenue generators of some
Mhm.
sort, which is what Sony's going to want to rake in, even if that's multi-platform. So I think it is a very high price for sure. I think it is definitely on the high end. I think I made my own valuation estimate before all this happened when I was saying Microsoft could buy Bungie maybe, and I was thinking like 1 to 3 billion maybe, just based on kind of the size of some of these other places. But the market is just so hot right now that I think you are going to see more quote overpaying for studios as everyone tries to snap everything up and this consolidation continues to happen. Again, I'm not saying that's a good thing. I just think that is what's definitely happening at this point. But I don't think this does not look to me at all like a desperate move from Sony. And like I give Sony a hard time all the time, but this does make, I think, a lot of sense based on all the stuff we've kind of been talking about here.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think it's desperation at all. I think it's really smart. I think they're a great partner for Bungie, honestly, because of their movie and television wing. And I'm really excited to see what kind of Destiny stuff they end up making with that collaboration. I and the fact that it's not exclusive, like if they would have said Destiny going forward is going to be exclusive to the PlayStation 5 console, I'd be like, that's like going back in time to when Destiny 1 had all the exclusive content on the PS4. It was
Be
kind of a
way worse
pain.
than that.
Yeah, so I had to
But
like
yeah, it would be
play
similar.
through the game twice, and they had all the
Yeah.
exclusive exotics, and Bungie was very clear that's not happening ever again. So it was a big relief for Destiny
People saw the
players.
FAQ and it said no exclusives for Witch Queen, and people were like,
Mhm.
"Oh, well, after Witch Queen, there's definitely going to be
Yeah.
exclusives." And like, but exclusives don't even make sense
Mhm.
anymore. Like, they wouldn't work because of crossplay and cross save. Like, they're not going to have two separate playlists for Vanguard Strikes and Crucible for PlayStation exclusive maps. They're not going to disable people's exotics moving across platforms anymore. Like, and Sony owns Bungie and Destiny now, so they don't care anymore about like luring everyone over to play on PlayStation with like exclusive items. Like we are
Yeah.
well past that if you have bought the company. So
Just buy the
I
emote in the store. That's all
yeah,
they care
exactly.
about.
So
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about that aspect of anything at all. Like it just in some ways this almost does seem like too good to be true. Like nothing's changing. Like really nothing's
Mhm.
changing at all. Like I guess that remains to be seen. But they were very quick to lay out all of the objections they knew we raised. No, it's not exclusive. No, we're not doing exclusive. Like nothing changes. We're not booting on and off. Even our future games are not exclusive. Like I'm like kind of out of questions to ask to be suspicious about this, but
Mhm.
it does it makes sense for both parties, and I hope it is as good as it sounds because it seems like it could be a very good partnership.
So what Sony wants to do is they want to make 10 Destinies, basically. What are some of the IPs, just off of the top of your head, that Sony could be leveraging to make these 10 Destiny games? I know
Well, so we
there was
know
the
Naughty Dog's
rumored.
already working on factions.
Yes.
So that's definitely one. I mean, I don't know how far along they are. There are rumors that it might even like come this year, which I have my doubts about. Um, but like I don't it's hard because like I don't know what you would just like turn into like a multiplayer live service game, and if that would be better than the kind of base versions that exist now. I mean, you think we have Spider-Man 2 coming out already. I'm sure Ghost of Tsushima 2 is in the works, and I doubt those are going to be substantially different. Ghost of Tsushima did sort of get a little bit into the live looter space with its addition. I forget what the mode is called, but like the multiplayer co-op, um, whatever mode where you're getting there's loot in that, and there's teamwork and special levels you're going through. So that was like a little bit moving in that direction. I The current state of God of War, I don't see that just becoming an open world looter anytime soon. But
Resistance, there was
I
the rumored Resistance thing going around. I could see that working. And it'd be a
maybe
big story if Resistance came back just generally, and if they figured out a cool way to tell stories in the Resistance universe, that beloved Insomniac game. It's Insomniac, right? Hopefully I got that
yeah.
right. I think people would be really happy.
Insomniac's so busy. I don't think they would have to give it to someone else. I think. I don't think Insomniac
Yeah.
could do it with all they have on their plate.
Mhm.
I could see Horizon moving into like a multiplayer shared world
Uh,
kind of thing. I don't know. I think it would be cool. Like of all the games that could be like an open
maybe.
world
Well,
stuff with loot, I think that could work. But
they're doing the VR
maybe we're
thing.
asking the wrong question. Maybe it could just be something. Maybe it's just supposed to be kind of brand new things that they're doing instead of like we're just going to morph, God of War, Uncharted, or whatever into a multiplayer game.
What if, Paul, what if Marvel is so happy with the performance of Spider-Man, they gave them the Wolverine license, that they're like, all right, we tried live service with Square. You take a crack at it. You have all the Marvel license that you want. Go for it.
Like
It'd be like
any
competing
Marvel
with their,
license.
well, no, the whole Marvel universe, like just the way
Oh,
that
everything. Okay.
Marvel Avengers, came out from Square. Do you think
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sony could make an exclusive Destiny like Marvel Avengers game, or does Marvel Avengers already filled that and sort of tank that
I don't
idea?
think Marvel Avengers is going to be filling it for more than the next year at the most.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think they could do some sort of live Marvel game that isn't what they did with Avengers. Like I think there is a way to do a live Marvel game, and like we've seen kind of superhero MMOs and like more live servicey type Marvel games in the past that probably have worked better than Avengers. So like I think there's definitely something they could do there. And sure, I mean, obviously they've done great with Spider-Man. That's like a Sony thing. But if they kill Wolverine, which I'm sure they will, like that to me would open up even more doors for them to do kind of, even more things. So
Hmm.
who knows where that could go. And then Disney's throwing around Star Wars to like everybody now. So, nothing, you can't rule out anything in terms of who might be able to take a crack at that.
Well,
I mean, obviously we know the people that are currently doing it, but
yeah. Yeah, BioWare did the MMO for Star Wars, and they just released an
yeah,
expansion for it, and it seems to be doing well many
yeah.
years after
And
launch.
like you're gonna give a Star Wars game to Quantic Dream, like you can give one to a Sony studio. Like,
Yeah.
come on.
I hope the Quantic Dream game is good and not camp. Like, I'm actually
I
pretty excited about that one,
also
but I'm a
hope that.
little worried
Yes.
about the campiness of his
I'm worried
games.
about many things with that game, but
Mhm.
it could have potential. I don't know. The whole Quantic Dream thing rose me the wrong way after all the like working conditions
Yep.
stories and the director dude and all that. But
Yep. Uh, well, one thing that also you seemed not super thrilled about was just overall industry consolidation. Now, my 2 cents on industry consolidation is this was inevitable, especially once Facebook said the word metaverse and talked about Grand Theft Auto and all this stuff. All the big companies are probably saying, we need to change our strategies. We need to change our game, because the big companies that can actually encroach on our turf are getting involved now. So what are we going to do? We're going to reconsolidate within our own realms, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, and go from there. Because we focus on Microsoft versus Sony, and nobody talks about Tencent, Paul. It drives me nuts. And
It's because they don't. It's because Tencent owns like 40% of everything, and they're not like the big company that owns like you don't see their stamp on everything. Like they are, one of the biggest players, and yet they're like behind the scenes, like kind of just investing in everyone, with not really like being at the forefront of things. But no, you're totally right. I mean, they're a huge player.
Good guy Tencent, just quietly, dominating the industry, bigger than Sony, bigger than Microsoft, and nobody talks about them. Anyway,
that's the way they like it.
So anyway,
sorry,
my 2 cents is that I think this industry consolidation was inevitable. I think we see more acquisitions. Jim Ryan hinted as such. Phil Spencer has hinted as such. And eventually we're going to get to a space where, yes, a lot more companies are going to be either associated with Sony or Microsoft, and those deals will be unique in their own right. But I think it's going to afford an opportunity for new third-party developers to spring up and associate with who they want to associate with. And honestly, hopefully it sort of curbs any potential, I want to use the word interference, from somebody like Facebook. I do not want Facebook making more Farmville type games in the gaming space. I'm very nervous about their involvement with Metaverse already. And I don't know where they're going.
Fortunately, their metaverse sucks, so I'm not too scared of it.
Well, we'll see, But what are your thoughts? You seem to have concerns about this.
What's interesting is that Activision presented themselves to Facebook, to Meta, for sale, because they didn't initially want to be bought by Microsoft. I don't think they would rather have been bought maybe for more money or something by Meta, and they got turned down. I think Meta is totally consumed in its own little world of we're going to make our own VR metaverse no matter what. And their stock's a massive hit today because they invested $10 billion or something in Oculus stuff, and their ad revenue went down at the same time. And so that is a huge risk for them. And they are trying to do it without any traditional Game Pass. And I don't know if you've played any of this Horizon stuff, but it's not good. It's not great. I mean, there's great experiences on Oculus, but it is not the metaverse crap that Facebook is building right now.
Yeah,
I absolutely see though a tech giant scooping in to buy some of these bigger players and try to get involved in that space. I think they have tried to do this organically, like Google tried Stadia, and they had their own first party thing and they shut it down. I can much easier see being Google waking up one day and finding pocket change to buy EA, or something. Because these companies, as big as they are in the gaming sphere, outside of literally Sony, Microsoft, Tencent, these tech giants could buy any of these companies and it would, barely put a dent in them. And someone could literally buy Nintendo for, their market cap is 50 billion, which in the tech space is nothing for, these companies are $2 trillion. And, Nintendo would have to want to sell is the thing. But as I've said, there's always a number, even maybe with Nintendo. But
I will never doubt you again.
Well, I can't get too much credit for that because I immediately said the day before that Sony couldn't afford Bungie on a skill up tweet, and then I got roasted for that when they ended up buying them a week later. So that's the consolidation I see. And I mean, I have just kind of general fears about big tech consuming everything and too much power. So I would start to be worried about them buying stuff up. Sony and Microsoft scooping up studios for their kind of little arms race here. I guess I'm less concerned about that to a certain extent, but I don't know. The Microsoft Activision thing spooked me. It was it's too big because all these other developers nothing that was 10 times the size of the last biggest one, which we thought was enormous. And if that can happen, anything can happen. Nintendo can happen, EA can happen, Ubisoft and if you just divide everything up and everything is in 3 camps essentially, that can create some potential stagnation problems, innovation problems, pricing problems, monopoly stuff, all the usual things that come with 4 companies owning everything. And yet obviously this is not the first industry to face those problems, and we have plenty of those kind of in the US and around the world today. So I think it has pros and cons, but ultimately I'm going to be somewhat wary, I think, like you, of these big companies amassing kind of too much stuff all at once.
Well, I'll say this. I'm not worried about Sony. I'm not worried about Microsoft. I'm not worried about Nintendo buying companies. Jim Ryan, buy EA and Ubisoft. I don't care. At least these are companies that have been around since, the PS1 era, and Sony's case, and Microsoft's been around since Xbox One, and Nintendo's been around forever. So any of those companies, if they're going to be buying stuff, I feel much more comfortable with them than somebody like Amazon, who hasn't even really figured out what they're doing with New World yet. Like they have one major
game
property.
That's kind of okay.
Yeah, they have one game that's kind of okay, and people are like working crunch and everything, and the rest of the industry is finally starting to find a balance. So, well, a lot of the companies are anyway. So for Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony to buy, I don't care who buys it. I think it's all fair game. I think it's all up for grabs. I think this was inevitable, especially as we start moving to services as opposed to boxes. Paul, did you know the Sega Genesis came out in the 80s? We've been having plastic box wars since the 80s. It's stupid. We have to it's been 50 years. It's time to move past the box. I
don't think we're not gonna move past the box. The box is just going to
it'll be an option.
It just won't be the only option. They're still going to make consoles. They're still going to make hardware for a very long time. It's just going to be that is not the literal only place you can play the game. It's like buying a VCR, that can only access Netflix or something like that. You know what I mean? It's, I don't think they're going to go down that road. But back to what you were saying with Amazon, this is my concern. Is I would worry that Amazon, Google, and maybe even Meta are just going to be so kind of fed up with trying and failing to do their own internal game thing. They have all the money on planet Earth and can recruit all the talent and all the heavens, and they cannot figure this out. Amazon kind of doing one MMO okay is the best thing any of those companies have done. So I can see them just getting fed up one day and be screw it, we're buying EA. Screw it, we're buying Take-Two, and just being okay, this is how we enter the game space with a preordained company that already has all this stuff set up, that already has this proven track record of games and whatever, and can shit. I don't even think they care about the revenue generation because they're so big. It won't even be significant to them. So I just think they want to be, involved in this space, and you can call it the metaverse or not, but it very much, they're all into streaming video and stuff now to a certain extent. So this to me seems like kind of the next evolution of that. Once everyone has their own streaming video thing set up and done, people are going to want to have their own game division. And it's not really, you say it's a fair playing field for Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo. It's not really though, because Microsoft is $2.2 trillion and Sony has 150 and Nintendo is 50. So Microsoft is the only company that can physically make a purchase, like Activision Blizzard.
Can I dive into that for a second?
Doing that, yeah.
So Microsoft has a ton of money that they can throw at stuff. They can buy stuff and just leave it alone and let them do their thing, work their magic, right? Sony has less money, but every time they spend money, it has been a surgical precision spend where they get huge returns on their investment. And Nintendo just has these IPs, these games and they're untouchable, like Pokemon, Mario, Metroid, all of these amazing IPs where they can just keep making Switches for another 5 years probably and be just fine. Each one has a different market strategy, and it's really fascinating to me that all of them work. All of them are just fine. So people are like, "Oh, you hate on Sony because, they foster developers and bring them in." Come on. It's all business. At the end of the day, right? They're fostering, but they're making them release games exclusively on their platform often,
Yeah.
So it's all a business strategy, and I don't fault the smart acquisition of great companies, right?
Yeah.
But to argue that when Microsoft does it, it's bad, that's when I'm just kind of no, it's not. They haven't proven yet in this industry that it's bad. So that's my 2 cents.
I will say, I was at that point maybe until the Activision deal. I guess it's still too early to tell with the Activision deal, but to me, that just seemed like crossing a threshold that we hadn't been anywhere near before. And we don't know if anything, quote, bad is going to happen with that. Call of Duty's not going, exclusive even and stuff like that. So, and who knows when the next time Blizzard is even going to produce a game. But that to me was the one example where I'm I don't know. This feels a little weird. Nintendo's on its own planet. Yeah. It can do whatever it wants until the end of time and be fine. All I wish for Nintendo is they can take their beautiful IPs and beautiful ideas and just get better technology
Yeah.
and like modernize. Like you can make all the same games, just like make them look better. And I guess, portability is the limiting factor there, but like that is, so it kind of drives me crazy, but like the games are still very good. I can't dispute that. So that's a whole other conversation for another day, but
Yeah, absolutely agree. There was one other major news story that I wanted to discuss with you, Paul, and that was that it took me 55 clears, but I finally got Vex Myth classed. I couldn't believe it actually happened, and it dropped there, and I'm like, it's over.
Did you record your reaction or
no? Like it's 55.
You never
clears.
assume it's gonna happen. Finally,
I stop after 10, man.
That's got to be the ultimate like cap. Is that literally like the max amount you could even do of lootable clears? Like I don't remember when Bolt of Glass came out, but like that's got to be close.
No. There was a long time where I just straight up stopped playing because I was so frustrated. Like after 20, I get really frustrated. I think for Anarchy that took me like 30. That was another exotic, and
I cheated and just grinded Anarchy like when they unlocked farming and you could just do it forever. That's when I got it.
I got it before that was activated. So yeah,
I mean that was a bad one too back in the day. It was almost as bad as Mythic Class, I think, for a while there.
Bungie needs to do something about it because there was a person in my raid party who had done it 100+ times and still hadn't gotten Vex.
Those can't all be lootable clears though. I don't think
you can do 3. You can do 3, but I don't know.
3, but like,
and I think
that's like 33 weeks. I don't think it's been out for that. I don't know. I might be wrong, but
yeah, I don't know. He would be close. He would be like right at, if it's been 33 weeks, then that would be 99 clears.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Maybe I'm wrong. Well, that's
anyway. I got it,
sense.
Paul.
Yeah.
Now I desperately need to find somebody willing to do the Oracle so I can get the Catalyst.
I don't know the Catalyst yet. We should do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I never got it. I just kind of forgot.
Well, we should probably get that done.
Yeah, I know. And then it's probably going to be nerfed in like tomorrow's TWAB. But.
Right. That is it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching Fake Neutrals. I'm your host, Destin Legary, joining me.
Did you rename the show?
Yeah, surprise. I people were calling us Fake Neutrals, so I'm like,
oh, that's hilarious.
That's kind of a good show name, actually. Fake I'm going to steal that.
I like that.
But yeah, Paul, thanks for joining me yet again. Where can people find your stuff?
I'm at Paul Tassi on Twitter. You can Google me and read my stuff at Forbes. And then I have Paul Tassi YouTube channel.
Oh, the other big news story was Forbes your articles are no longer paywalled.
That is true. Yes. So you can click away to your heart's content.
Awesome. And you can find me right here. Check out Paul's stuff. Paul's stuff is great. This channel is doing great. Thank you so much to everybody who subscribed. Thank you to all the members. Memberships are available. If you want to do that, click that join button. We're going to get out of here. We'll see you for the next one. Bye for now, everybody.